But welcome everyone to the second Alberti Center Colloquium of the 2023-2024 school year. I hope everyone's having a good year. So we're very excited to have our speaker here today with us. Ana Brava Castillo is here with us today. So she's going to present for about an hour, and then we will have about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. I just have a couple housekeeping notes before we get into the introductions and the presentations today. So we are a hybrid event, so we are both right in person and on Zoom. So Zoom attendees, our hope is that you are able to stay muted throughout the presentation, just so that it's not distracting for others. There will be time for questions at the end. Again, for the Zoom attendees, you are more than welcome to put questions into the chat, and we can address them either at the end, or if they're more logistical questions, we can try to help out kind of throughout the event. We will be monitoring the chat throughout. And then at the end of our session today, there will be an evaluation survey that's sent out via a link and a QR code. So for in-person attendees, that will be, well, for everyone, it will be emailed, but for Zoom attendees, that will be included in a link in the chat at the end of our session today. And then for our in-person attendees, we do have food, which I think everyone realized. I forgot to say this at the last session, I realized, and then nobody took any food. So anyways, for in-person, we have food. So please feel free to take food or get up. Hopefully it's not too distracting, but make sure to get food as needed throughout the session. Okay, so I'll get into the introduction for our speaker today. So Ana Brava Castillo is a member of the LaCovey research team led by Dr. Ortega-Ruiz. She's currently in the last year of her doctoral thesis at the University of Cordoba, Spain, which is directed by Professors Eva and Ortega-Ruiz. Her research focuses on analyzing the factors of sensitivity, judgment, and moral behavior in the interpersonal dynamics of the peer group, where violent phenomena such as bullying occurs, with the aim of understanding the psychosocial processes that occur within the peer group, such as friendship dynamics, social status, or group norms that play a fundamental role in the perpetration and maintenance of such dynamics of victimization. So a lot of overlap with what we'll hear about today. Since which is very exciting. So since 2019, Ana is a contracted university faculty trainer. She has participated in numerous projects funded by the Ministry of Science and Innovation aimed at exploring the social, moral, motivational, and group factors that play a key role in the complex dynamics of bullying among students. In addition, she has been the beneficiary of different grants obtained under public competition and with highly competitive character, such as the Santana Ibero-American Research Scholarships and the recently awarded predoctoral research grant funded by the Fulbright Predoctoral Research Program. And I'm not quite done yet. So Ana has completed 2 predoctoral stays, one in the Netherlands and one in Chile. She's currently at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, studying with Professor Dorothy Espelage. So obviously very impressive, and she's not even a faculty member yet. So we are very excited to have Ana here with us today. So please join me in welcoming Ana. Thank you so much.
Pues, she gave so wonderful presentation for me. So maybe I can pass so quickly the first part of my presentation. So during this hour, we have talked about the moral dimension of the bullying and the cyberbullying and how to try to prevent that kind of behavior. One of the most important things is we don't know a magic strategy or way. So we have talked about some important key that can give us some cues how to act or how to involve or promote the bullying, or reduce the bullying and promote the convivency. Maybe it's working, yes. After this is the presentation of the organization. The first part was to talk about me, but she told everything. I situated Cordoba in the map. My supervisors are Eva Romera and the Professor Rosario Ortega-Ruiz. This is the member of the team and the LaCovey. This is the laboratory of study on convivence and prevention of the violence. And as she told me, I covered 2 research about bullying and the social network. The first one was the Professor René Wisten in Groningen, and another with the Professor Christian Berger, and currently I am with the Professor Dorothy Espelage. So we can start it. Okay, the first part is about what we mean when we talk about bullying. Bullying is a set of intentional aggressive behavior repeated over time in which we find an imbalance power relation between aggressor and victims. But this kind of social dynamic take place in the clear context, and they are one of the most important roles in the maintenance or the stopping of the behaviors. Previous studies suggested that the most of adolescents evaluated bullying negatively and stated that they try to do something to stop it and help the victim, but the reality is that less than the half of the bullying bystanders assume victim defenders roles. This is associated with one of the advances given for one of my research, my supervisor, the Professor Rosario Ortega. She defined the law of silence, and this kind of phenomenon in which the peers decide don't do anything and maintain a passive attitude indirectly continue perpetuating the imbalance relation between victims and defenders, because victim and aggressor, because the victim feel that they are not receive any support and the coldness about the things that they are living, and the aggressor receive that the whole group is think that this is perfect, and maybe they receive the regard and the support for the near close, their friends, the people that think that is a positive behaviors. So, as previous study described, bullying should be assumed as a different kind of roles. The people who respond and see the aggressor, the people who define the victims, and someone who remains passively in these kind of situations. But the problem is that this definition is fine and the roles was assumed in different studies along the world, but also some limitation were found. The first one is the overlapping between the bullying and reinforcement. Both roles are assuming for the same students, but also between some roles that are completely different. For example, aggressor and victims can assume, aggressor and defendant can be assumed by the same student who defend their friends and their friend is aggressive and other peers. And also in the most of the study, not all the participants can assign a unique role, maybe 2 or 3 of the different behaviors that can be assumed in this kind of situation. One of the problems is because we assume that it's categorical and mutually exclusive. This describe of the reality is positive to obtain a early and more simply describe of the school reality, but we need to develop more longitudinal and longitudinal and continue describe of the student behaviors, because maybe they can change it in the role that they are perform, or maybe they perform different roles at the same time. In this, with this perspective, we developed 2 different programs in which I am one of the co-authors. The first one was accepted to be published in the Psychothema journal, and one of the objectives was to describe the victim trajectory over 2 different school years, and we find that one stable group in the victim role, but also some adolescents escaped to the victimization situation and started to be victimized in this time. This improved the necessity to know what personal and social and moral characteristics do that adolescents be more or less involved in these kind of situations. We are talk about that in a few moments. And another study was published in the Journal of School Psychology, and we focus in the defendant roles and the trajectory that they follow along the time. And we find also 4 different trajectories group, and it is important to mention, and one of the study that we presented during the anti-bullying forum in North Carolina was related with the differences between the self-report and the peer report. For example, here we can see that most of adolescents describe themselves as involved in this pro-social behavior, and they are so dependent to their peers, but the reality is that we need to define that kind of behavior, taking in mind the peers and the adolescent reality, and sometimes the mix of both of them is impossible to describe the reality because peers don't see the context, and maybe the adolescent have a bad description of their self. So the first home messages will be that the role that we describe the adolescent should be changing and not an unstable thing that describes the person. So it's something that they assume and change it during the time. Maybe the people that involved. If my friends is not my friend, I increase my popularity. Maybe the teacher is look that we are doing or not. And it is important to take that in mind. Future students should know what happened with the bullies and especially with the reinforcement, because this is the first step to be or become to be a bully and involved in this kind of behavior. This work is currently in progress. And also to conduct this trajectory, taking my different roles. One study doing that and find a mixed and very complex social dynamics and bullying roles in this kind of behaviors, that is important that we don't talk of aggressor, victims, and defenders in order to develop more adequate strategies to prevent bullying and to reduce the involved during that kind of behaviors. Therefore, the kind of behavior that an adolescent assumes in bullying situation play an important role, but the classroom dynamics is one of the most important social contexts, because adolescents spend more of the time in the school, interact with their peers, and they have to achieve academic and non-academic agreement, and they don't choose their classmates because the classroom structure is chosen by the head teacher or the teacher, but they have to collaborate with some peers and establish friendship dynamic with that network that is created in non-natural context. So the classmate becomes one of the major socialization agents during childhood, but especially in adolescence. In this sense, the Professor Rosario Ortega Ruiz is developed the concept of the social structure of participant of the classroom, that is a description of the social dynamic in the classroom and the roles that adolescents assume, and is coexisting and intertwined different social dynamics. We are focused on social status, friendship, and peer and norm, the peer group norm, especially focused on bullying, in order to describe three of the most relevant contextual focus in the study of bullying before to go to the morality part. In this complex image, we can see that this is a classroom we are imagining, and we can see the social dynamic in the classroom will be organized in different crowds. The crowds refer to a group with whose boundary, whose members share common characteristics, maybe the race, the age, the gender preferences, hobbies, but they don't have to spend time together or be friends. Maybe they are only share that kind of things. And previous studies find that the crowds have sometimes so similar across the world. For example, the popular group, the Wither, the Freakies, and are being identified here and also in Europe and in other places. So this organization could be a group characteristic in the this developed stage during the adolescence. Another social structure that we can find here is the clique group or the friends group. This is a small group with a clear boundary, with they feel a belong necessity and share preferences, opinions, and is so more closer and relation between them. And we also found a group of adolescents who is, I can't find me any. Who are isolate, maybe because the peers don't want to interact with them or maintain the outside the group. But also we are developed some focus group with adolescents, and they describe some classmates that prefer maintaining apart. They spend the time alone during the playground time and don't want to spend time with them. This is one of the new focus of the research. Maybe this is true or no, it's a perception only for the peers, maybe a moral disconnection to maintain that peers outside, and they say no, they want it, that, but maybe no is the truth, or yes, we need to continue to explore this. So we are focused now in the crowd, because the crowd will be the description of the social status. That is a snapshot about what is the position in the affective and popularity position in the classroom network. At the beginning, the definition of social status was based on acceptation or the acceptation less the rejection, but this description don't give the opportunity to differ between rejecting adolescent or isolate adolescent, and between controversial adolescent who, for example, the bullies are accepted for someone of their peers but are rejected by another. So this is important to not describe the affective as rejected or accepted as the same thing. This will be a different thing that we have to explore in a separate way. After that, different sociometric taxonomy were developed. One of them, one more of them describes popularity based on acceptation and rejection. So adolescent who was high in acceptation, low in rejection will be the popular peers. But two separate studies discovered that during adolescence, the part of the social and popularity preferences differ from the popularity, the power, the prestige, and adolescents don't have the same characteristic, and it is important to explore in a separate way. In this sense, some previous studies describe that it's not possible to describe only two, the affective and the popularity, because as I mentioned, acceptation and rejection is not the same. So we need to explore in a separate way. So this, for example, this previous study describes social status as based on 3 dimensions: acceptation, rejection, and popularity. But some previous studies find that some behaviors, maybe bullying and relational aggression, is associated at the same time with popularity and unpopularity. In this line, a previous statistical study tests the association between popularity and unpopularity at that not linearity. So it's, as we can see, it's not a linear, it's an L shape, and this was replicated in one of our studies. And we can, as I mentioned, the psychothema study was a double objective. The second one was to explore if the victim trajectory differing the 4 dimensions: acceptation, rejection, popularity, and unpopularity separately. And we found that there will be a time-maintained association between being victim of bullying and a worse social position, but more related with rejection and unpopularity that was more stable, but another changing. So we can, or we have to focus on promote the social position of the adolescent in order to break that maintaining the role. Related with the adolescent in decreased trajectory group, they describe an increasing tendency in acceptation and popularity, but as we can see, not changing in rejection and unpopularity. So future students should explore the direction and causality of this association in order to find the individual and group characteristics that can give some cue about how to avoid or how to promote that adolescent escape of the victim roles that avoid the perpetuation in that dynamics. And related with the adolescent who started to be victimized by their peers, this adolescent we found that rejection and popularity will be the two more social status associated with this change in the victimization. And that rejection was higher. Sorry, the popularity was higher and rejection was normal. And after that, increased so in an important way. Maybe this is associated with a previous result in a ethnographic classical study that find and describe the cycle of the popularity. First, be popular, and after that, be disliked by their peers. And we are currently test this hypothesis, but we included the idea that maybe be popular and then be rejected and victimized by their peers. So maybe the popular adolescent also can become the victims in the future. And we have to explore that association from a social network analysis. That is a new way to explore the dynamics in the classroom and the evolution. Related with the friendship dynamic and the clique group, the friendship based on play, the direct physical contact more frequent during the childhood, changed to the adolescent. And they started to need spend more time, share more things, and need more than they belong with their peers, their friends. In this sense, in a previous study, we find that the friendship characteristic changing during the early adolescent, is more denser. So they say that they have more friends, but it's less reciprocal. So the mutuality is less probably when they are child, where more younger than when they are older. Moreover, previous study told that the friends dynamic will play an important role in the kind of things that the adolescent, how they act, the people there, or the opinion that they have. In this sense, we are find that this is true. Adolescent, when we explore as a social network the popularity and the friends effect in the opinion of the adolescent, we are finding that the French opinion is more important than the popular peer opinion. So maybe how my friend describe another classmate, or how my friend opinion what is the best or worst behavior, is more important than the popular opinion as an individual opinion of that person that is popular. Maybe when we talk about the popular norm, that is something different that has also be explored. Well, and related with the peer group now, according, as I mentioned, adolescents have a high need to belong and take part of the group and feel that they are important for their peers. In this line, and according with the similarity attraction effect, the group are formed based on similar preferences, hobbies, and that kind of thing, and the peer group is maintained together and as a close group because they are similar, but also because the peer norm improve, they are become more similar because they receive feedback that about what behavior is accepted or rejected in that group, how we have to act. In this sense, and according with the theory of planned behavior, when we have to take any decision or make any decision, the individual assume one of another behavior. The first thing they have, what want I obtain to do with that? So what is my objective, my motivation? And after that, they promote different kind of behaviors and think, okay, how my peers receive that behavior. Maybe if I defend the victim, my peers agree me, or maybe they reject me, or I improve my popularity or not. And after this evaluation, they decide how to act, and they receive a feedback that promote the repetition or the stopping of the behavior. In this sense, previous study related with bullying and the social classroom context was focused on two theoretical theories. The first one was the normative behavior theory that is based on descriptive norms. Descriptive norms should be the kind of behavior that is more repeated by the peer group, while the inductive norm will be the accepted or rejected behavior in the classroom. And the second theory will be the social norm theory. This is related with the actual behavior and the perceived behavior. So what is my peers doing in reality and what I think that my peers are doing. This theory could be jointly connected because, as we can see in the first part, descriptive and actual norm is associated with Maria classmate usually hit and insult Luis. So it's something that happened, it's actual, and the majority of the classroom do it. But if we talk about the belief of Maria, we are talking about the descriptive and perceived norms. So this is something difficult and complex when we try to describe the pre-group norms, because it's a combination so many different cognitive process that is developed during adolescence. And maybe this is important to take in mind that the development of this cognitive structure are different at the early adolescence or childhood. They don't have enough develop of the mind theory and that kind of cognitive process to take the mind of another person. So future students should describe the bullying norms in a separated, taking in mind the development of the cognitive process in adolescence. This is an example. If Lucia wants to improve their popularity and she decides to bully their classmate Luis, for example, and if Lucia achieves her objective and she increases her popularity, this has an effect in the social structure of the classroom. So popularity is a relational phenomenon. If Lucia increases her popularity, someone loses popularity. So here is a competition. Moreover, the peer norm is changing. So the classroom assumes that that is an accepted behavior by the classmates. And they find it, that behavior, as a positive way to attain more popularity. So they repeated that kind of behavior. Only the decision of one person changes all the structure in the classroom. So it's so important to take in mind when adolescents have to make decisions about this, we learn them the abilities to identify the consequences of their behaviors, because as adults, we don't make the decision for them, and we teach them how to make the most adequate decision for them and for their peers, because that is one of the characteristics of the morality. When we are involved in the care and the well-being of another person, we don't try to harm them. What could bullying class norm influence in the social position? That was my first research question, really. And we try to describe the differences in social preferences, popularity, bullying roles, class norm, and in differences between primary and secondary school and boys and girls. And we found that the percent distribution of bullying roles was similar between the different class norms. And only differences were found for genders, boys more bullies and girls more associated as defenders. And the Manovas analysis and post-hoc test underline three important results. The first one, that the social preferences, the acceptation and rejection when we combine the both, I saw that this is not the best way to describe, but it's more easier as a first way to understand the social structure at the first step or describe the situation. And we found that the bullies and victim was the worst social positioning affected, and no differences between the classroom norms. So social preferences not influenced by the classroom structure based the pro and anti-bullying class norm. So two opposite way to act when they are witnessed in a bullying situation. But popularity was so influenced by the kind of bullying norms. The first differences in primary school, bullies were not more popular than other roles, but their level was higher in pro-bullying classrooms. So classrooms that act in a pro-bullying attitude, their level of popularity was similar than the defenders. So the competition is more difficult, and maybe the defender decide no defend because maybe I lose my popularity as an other person with power in the classroom. And for secondary classroom, no differences were found based the classroom norm. They are similar, and maybe the aggressor was similar in popularity with the defenders. So the secondary is give some of the previous studies suggested that defended reduced the association with popularity, and aggression started to increase the association with popularity. And related with the genders, boys describe a similar structure regardless the type of the norms. Bullies were more popular than another classmate in a similar situation than the defenders. But the important role was associated with the genders. In anti-bullying classroom was no differences between roles, but in pro-bullying classroom, the victims were the worst social popularity position. They had lower level than the victim girls in anti-bullying classrooms. So they have a so low social position. We can see here. This was a high underloud level compared with the victim in a anti-bullying context. Nice. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, this simply describe of the context, because I describe each role as a categorical. It's not the best part, but give us a general description of the reality, and promote the develop a new research questions. In this case, we are focused on why during the secondary school the bullying roles is not relevant. Maybe the problem was associated with the description of the bullying norms as two polar, so anti-bullying or pro-bullying only. It's not anything in the middle, is no differences between adolescents. So this was the first objective on another research that we are recently conducting. And we describe the bullying norms using more sophisticated analysis, and we find it two more different bullying class norms. One of them was not associated with anti-bullying behavior, but with indirect defendant behavior, maybe to tell the teacher, to confront the victim, but not confront the bullies. So the bullies can feel that they are rewarded or punished by their peers because they are not doing anything. And different behavior that was associated that the peers don't choose a clear preferences when somebody defend or reform the aggressor. So the classmate is not in a clear or similar group way to act. So maybe the aggressor feel comfortable because they receive some positive feedback from some of the peers. In this sense, and only for yours, I conduct some complementary analysis to the conducting the study, and I found it that the evolution in the roles during the school years was significant difference in the anti-bullying classroom. The defending involved of the adolescent reduced, that is so strange, but the aggression and victimization increased. So maybe this is related with the Professor Cristina Salmivali when she told that positive content maybe find a paradoxic head that maybe is more positive for the victim that continue being victimized in these kind of situations. And another difference was in different contexts for victims who also increase their levels. So, second home messaging, and we are going for morality. Bullying should be described as part of social and relational dynamics, and the social structure of the classroom is so relevant to understand the bullying evolution and the adolescent roles that they assume. Two objectives in future research focus on girls that are victims in this pro-bullying context, and the description of the classroom network using different kind of methodological analysis. Well, continue with the presentation. We are focused on the morality part. I would like to underline that we are not talk about the religion or something like that. Morality is separated, that this concept is related with, as we can see in the definition, is related with the human justice right, and the when we act in order to not do harm and be care with our peers and our partner, and the well-being of another person is part of my responsibility. So we try to promote a positive coexistence between all of us. Following that definition, bullying is an immoral behavior because it's an instrumental behavior that deliberately harms the victim. So morality plays a key role in the making decision process for the bystander and the adolescent who assume bullying behaviors. In this sense, and according to the dual process theory of moral reasoning, when we witness an immoral situation, two cognitive processes are activated. The first one will be a good reaction for approval or disapproval without any cognitive effort. So you are seeing something that is immoral and you feel something and you recognize that. And after that, we develop a control cognitive process that tries to support that automatic process, but also alter that in order to continue act in an immoral way. We are talking about that, the moral disengagement and all of this. Previous study and neurological research confirm this dual process. First, the good reaction, and after that, the control process. And most of the study related with bullying was focused in the moral reasoning, the cognitive part. But we are forget the automatic response, and this is so important because in order that a person can identify and analyze the morality part of the one behavior, they have to activate that automatic process. That automatic process is known as moral sensitivity. Moral sensitivity is the ability to recognize the moral issue in a complex situation, and also the affective activation that we feel. This process is part of the self-esteem that we develop our socialization process, and during adolescence is more important the socialization process with the peers. And when we develop this, we can differ between moral and social conventional norm tradition. Maybe when we do something that is associated with social norm but is not against anybody. In this sense, as happened with the empathy, moral sensitivity has been described as twofold components: the recognition of moral consent and the affective response. For all things, and in order to can describe the moral sensitivity associated with the bullying, we are validated two scales, one related with the bullying situation face-to-face and another related with the cyber social scam, maybe the cyberbullying, and with differences between the cognitive and the affective dimension, and the analysis conducted for factor analysis confirmed that this structure in the scale. Some preliminary descriptive analysis suggested that girls and younger adolescents have higher level in both moral sensitivity dimensions. So when adolescents go increase their age, they have less sensitivity, that kind of thing. So this is important that focus in this to promote they have conscious the morality part of the bullying. As I mentioned, post hoc process can support or alter or automatic response. In this sense, some child and adolescent adopting behavior contrary to the moral norms, bullying and cyberbullying behaviors, but they maintain a positive self-description, are proud of themselves, and consider that they are in a morality act. To understand this cognitive social distortion, the concept of moral disengagement was developed. This is a set of cognitive emotional strategies that allow us to disconnect and not feel the guilt to act in that. We can find 4 different cognitive processes. The minimizing the responsibility that involve the activation of things that tend to reduce the responsibility. The cognitive restructuring in order to reduce the consequences of the behavior or the stop to perceive that behavior as immoral. The distortion of the consequences that decentralizes who is responsible of that behavior, and deshumanization of the victim that blame the victim as the responsible that kind of behaviors. In previous study, we found that the needs and the objective of the adolescent is associated also with how they act. We found that the need for popularity longitudinally described the bullying and moral disengagement of the adolescent, but also during the adolescent that are victimized, they develop that kind of strategies, and that kind of strategy promote that they will be involved as bullies in future situations, perpetuated that victimization cycle because they assume the aggressor roles, because they increase, they disconnected with the morality issue about that kind of harm behaviors. So moral disengagement will be a mechanism that reduce the impact of the automatic activation that is the moral sensitivity. Previous study explored this association related with the bystander behaviors, but what happened with the victim and the aggressor. That was one of the results we presented in the anti-bullying forum. We found it that the bullies will not feel the moral emotions such as the guilt and the shame in immoral situations, which favor they involve and the perpetuation in the behavior, especially if they find that is a useful strategy to improve their popularity and their social position. No associated with the recognition of the moral issue, so maybe this disconnected with the moral part, more cognitive, is associated with the moral disengagement. They have a high moral disengagement. And we are working in explore the association in a longitudinal, what is before the moral disengagement or the no recognize the morality things in the behavior. And we find that intervention program will be important to include the develop of the moral sensitivity as part of the most important cue to involve the adolescent what is morality in the bullying behaviors. If they can recognize that, maybe they can develop more strategy and cognitive process to reduce the behavior. Related with the victims, we find that they recognize the moral issue, but they have high level of moral disengagement, which is associated with the previous be victim and after that be the aggressor. And we are now explore if differences in the four moral strategy in that adolescent. Maybe this is important to know what is more involved for victim. Maybe they reduce the consequences. They think that they are the responsible. This is an important part. Well, and until here, we have underlined that a morality competence person will be someone who identifies the immoral issue, connected with the feeling that they feel, and they describe and identify that kind of thing as immoral and that is bad for another person. But that is enough. So the people that have this decide to defend another person or not as an aggressor. As I mentioned previously, that is not enough because less than the 50% of the adolescents decide not doing anything. What allow us to transform intention into actions? Here, the motivation will be an important part, and according with the self-determination theory, motivation will be some continued characteristic go to a motivation. The person decides not to do anything because it's not motivated to an autonomous motivation. I do that because define me is associated with the identity of the person. And in the middle, we can find different behavior control for extrinsic motivation related with the reward or cost of that behavior. Maybe my parents give me a prize, so I continue doing that. Or my peers say me that I am not popular, I stop to do that. And introjective motivation is the same, but it's self-report. So if I act in an immoral behavior and I say me, you are a bad person, I probably don't do it the same because I don't have to receive this self-feedback, something that I told about myself. In order to explore this association, if we come back to moral behaviors, such as bullying, moral motivation will be the willingness to behavior in accordance with an ethical norm without import the personal cost or the conflict with another social undesirable characteristics such as popularity. Because as I mentioned, especially in adolescents, bullying could be an adaptive behavior to obtain an increased popularity. So when adolescents have to decide defend or go against the bullying, they have the dilemma to go in the ethical norm direction, but reduce their social position, their connection with that part of the group. So it's a difficult decision for adolescents. In this sense, we have an important concept that will be the moral courage, that is the final impulse that changes and transforms the motivation, the predisposition in an act. So I decide to act that because I have the courage and I feel that I can do it. I know how to act. That is another important part for future programs, to learn but not give. This is important that as adults, we don't say to adolescents, you have to act in this way or in another way, because adolescents don't do that the adult told them. We have to promote in there that they explore different options and know that exist different options. This is important to create context that they talk and interact and change the opinions, and that is one of the parts of the intervention. The moral courage has some limitation because most of the previous study and described it for later adolescent and adult, and focus on hierarchical and complex situations as a military or medical emergency. And we need to focus on bullying behaviors and during the childhood and adolescence. In this sense, we are currently developing and validating one scale focused on moral courage in bullying situations. Preliminary analysis suggested that, again, girls and younger adolescents are more moral courage. So we have to focus what characteristics can promote that kind of behaviors maintained during the adolescence. So, as I mentioned, moral courage could moderate the motivation to act when we be extended a bullying situation. But that is true. That was one of the questions that we presented in the International Congress of Psychology and Education. And the different type of motivation to defend in bullying was included using this scale that is developed for bullying behavior defenders, so it's a useful scale. And we found it in a quickly way. The linear regression analysis showed that girls and younger adolescents were more involved as defenders, and defendant behavior was associated with autonomous motivation and moral courage. So these are two important characteristics, but we don't find any association between them. It is important to underline that we find a negative association with external motivation. So adolescents who decide to defend it don't do it that because some other people told them or do the cause associated with that. They do it because it's something that defines themselves, and it is important they find the importance to these kind of behaviors. Future students should explore separately primary and secondary school because it's different, and if the external regard come from peers or adults because it's also different. It may be external regard related with popularity is more important that my teachers tell me that I am good or bad adolescent. Related with the bullying reinforcement, it was more associated with boys. And we find that a negative associated with moral courage and autonomous motivation, while a positive association with external motivation. Taken together, this results suggested that an adolescent decide to defend if a friends or increase popularity, but if not associated with this regard, I decide to report the bullies because maybe it's associated with popularity. So it is important to know what is the motivation of this student to decide defend and take this as part of the future program that take in mind the morality and this. And finally, here we find that moral courage moderates the association between external motivation and the reforms or the bullies, especially when they are a low level of moral courage. So it is important to promote the decision to act between adolescents. And related with the outsider behaviors, other adolescents were more associated with this behavior. It is interesting that motivation and moral courage was in the similar direction that the adolescent who decided to act in a pro-bullying behaviors, but we find differences in the role of moral courage. In these cases, moral courage moderated associated with autonomous motivation. So if I have the definition of I have to act and I want to act, reduce the probability to maintain it in a passive way. But, and this is interesting, we find a negative associated with the self-feedback. So if I told me that I'm a bad person for no help, is promote the maintain in a passive attitude. Maybe we have to continue to explore why they decide to maintain without do anything but they thinking that they are bad person. Maybe this is important. So the last home message will be that the moral domain should be described from a multi-dimension. We can describe only the moral disengagement or something like that. We need to describe all of them as a part of a complex social, emotional, and relational situation. And here some future direction related with the necessity for more longitudinal direction study and to describe the develop in a separated way. All data of this study come from two different national research projects, both funded by the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation. One of them is finished 2 years ago and was conducted during 2 years. And another is currently in develop. We collected the data for the 2 first years and we are continuing. And here is more focus in the morality part. And so we are continuing to explore and develop this longitudinal perspective. And the important part when we share this is how to move this knowledge to the classroom, to the reality for the students. According to previous meta-analysis, the anti-bullying program has a significant effect to reduce aggression and victimization in situation of bullying, so anti-bullying. So it is important to continue and develop more programs. We found that few programs was including the moral competencies as one of the objectives. So this was the objective of the new proposal, the Moral Me, developed as part of proof of concept project funded by the Spanish Ministry in Science and Innovation and the European Union. In Spanish, the language, the name is Cuídame, that will be Care Me, and the objective is to promote the making decision and the adolescent care the other, and we involve the well-being of the peers. Moral Me is part of a wider model, the building a school convivence developed by our team. And this model is focused on promote the whole school climate and the positive social interaction between adolescents and also between the staff and the families is in order to create a whole context and a positive social dynamics. The program is based in 5 key components. The first one is it is important to include all the adults involved in the education of the adolescent, not only the teacher, but also the family and the teacher or the people associated with the free time activities that they develop during the afternoon, because if all the adults are working in the same and have the same objective, offer more different environment for adolescents to practice and take their decision and promote this kind of abilities. The second one is necessary not describe the program as a stable structure that is repeated in the same characteristic for all the school. Here it is important to teach the professor and the staff to know what is the necessity in my school and in my classroom, what recourse and limitation I have, how I can adapt the program to my reality. So this is important to promote that the professor and the teachers know how to describe their classroom. In this sense, we develop some different focus group with teacher and expert, and they tell us that it's important to promote in there the description and to know what we talk when we talk morality or moral disengagement, maybe some difficult concept that they have to develop in their students. So it is important to translate in a more easy language that they can understand and apply in the classroom, and also how they can evaluate that in their students, because they have to know what is the reality in the classroom or what is the characteristic, how I can know it. So that is also one of the key elements in the program. Therefore, we conducted the program from the first school academic years in primary until the last academic year in secondary, but it's not the same in all the years. So we take in mind the psycho-developmental perspective, and it's more focused in different characteristics of the morality and the social and emotional develop of the student, because Ariane say the mind of theory or the thinking mind or the maybe the moral sensitivity is higher in the child than after that. So we have to work and focus in different elements, taking in mind that characteristic. And finally, the proposal is ecological, that consider the individual in their content and interacting with them. So we started to propose a situation that is associated with their reality. In this sense, they are with this objective, they are connected with the reality. They can say, okay, I live that in my classroom, or I can do it that because it's a real situation. We take in mind the focus group with them, and they give me different examples, some situation and problems and way they can act, and part of this reality to develop the different season and strategies. And the objective of the season in eight school year, we have 6 seasons, and they are connected for a final goal objective, and each of them is part of another and is interacting between them. This is one of the references that we have to share with you. Is a more complete description than my presentation, and the program that we want to translate to English, because some of the questions, and I am finished, that you share with me was associated with a program based the evidence and the reality. I can find so many in English related with moral disengagement and that kind of things. Where we try to translate the program to English, and currently we are evaluating the quality and the adequation. We are performing different classrooms, so that is the next step. So thank you, and I only continue with one of the questions, and we can start it with another. That was related with the evidence-based cyberbullying prevention program, or maybe use face-to-face program. Maybe we can use a face-to-face program, because when we promote the civic training program, is also to connect it with the cyber reality. But here we can find 2 different programs. One of them is related, it was developed by the team of the Professor Sebastian Walsh. It's related with the head messenger in the line context, but it's in German language. And another one is developed by one of our team members, the Professor Jose Antonio Casas. That is a Conrad program, but it's in Spanish language. So I saw it. That's I stopped it to share.
Thank you so much. All right, so at this time, so Anna had that last slide there. So Anna was addressing one of the questions that came in during registration, right? When everyone registered, everyone sort of had the opportunity to put in a question. And so that's what Anna was addressing there. So we have about 5 to 6 minutes or so now for any questions from either in-person attendees or Zoom attendees. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, we can go ahead and move forward with that. And this always starts with an awkward pause until somebody wants to.
Were there questions on Zoom or no?
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I'll ask one then. First, thank you so much. That is so impressive, all the work that you've done. And I'm just, I have a lot of notes, a lot of measures I want to look into and other things. I guess one of my questions is, it seems, well, I just want to clarify that in one of your studies, you found that the indirect defending actually related to increased victimization and aggression in later years. Oh, okay. I'm a little sad about that finding because a lot of what we and others do in our bystander intervention training is try to give multiple options for how to respond, including reaching out to the person who's been victimized based on the literature that because they feel isolated and not supported, that that's supposed to be helpful. So I wonder if you could just talk a little bit more about that. I know you mentioned the healthy context paradox as possibly feeding into that. But what do you make of that finding?
Because if this was associated with anti-bullying classroom, and maybe this could be a positive context that we hope that the defender increase and the victimization reduce, but that is not reality for the study conducted by Cristina Salmivali, but also in our study. And this could be associated with the increase in victimization, but also, as Cristina told during the forum, is associated with the more conscious about that kind of behaviors and more focus in that. And one of my questions all the time is the bullies reduced or not? In this case, the bullying increased too. So maybe is the defending act not enough, or we have to focus in another things? That is the reason why we decide to explore the morality part. Maybe they are so motivated to act, and here is another difference is we ask the defending to yourself a discretion of their peers discretion, because it's different. And this is important to take in mind when we describe defending by the peers. They perceive that the classmate is less involved in defending behaviors than they are describing. So that is interesting part, maybe. Because I conducted that in the forum, and maybe if no more question, I can show you. You are look my screen read? Yes. Okay.
We can see. I don't think the Zoom people.
Yeah, you're gonna have to share your screen.
I am going
Okay.
to share. Okay. Now, we explored separately the latent class analysis between peer description and self-description in aggression and defending behaviors. And we can find that the peers consider that their peers are more involved and stable in aggressive behaviors, but not described in the same way for defending. In this case, was in the opposite direction. They describe as more involved in defending, but they peers described as more involved as an aggressor. And we try to say, okay, this is similar, the description between peer and self. And we find that for aggressor was quite similar, the structure. So the peers and individual describe the bullying in a similar way. We lose the stable group, but for defending, we lose that structure. So maybe the peers is not involved in defending situation because it's an indirect defending behaviors, or they have a so positive description of their self, and this is one of the problems. So related with your question, we have to continue explore how we are describe the reality. Maybe we are not focused in the correct way to describe defending behaviors and bullying behaviors. And that is one of the important parts, I think, and continue to explore. No, it's a bad messaging. Maybe we have to continue to know more about that.
Thank you.
And I think that brings us right to 12:45. So thank you so much, everyone, online and in person that was able to join us today. Just a reminder, there is an evaluation link that was sent in the chat, and it will also be emailed to everyone. So hopefully you're all able to fill that out. And then super quick, I just wanted to give you this on behalf of the Alberti Center. Thank you so much for coming and presenting. And thank you so much, everybody. And I hope everyone has a good rest of your day.